On May 12, 2017, hospital workers across England looked at their computers and saw the same terrifying message. Their files had been encrypted. Patient records were inaccessible. Appointments were disappearing. And a countdown had begun. Pay the ransom in Bitcoin, or risk losing everything. But the hospitals were only the beginning. Within hours, the same attack was spreading through businesses, factories, transportation systems, and government offices around the world. Hundreds of thousands of computers were in danger. No one knew how far it would spread, and no one knew how to stop it. Then, a young cybersecurity researcher noticed something strange hidden inside the malware. A meaningless website address. He registered it and accidentally activated the kill switch to one of the largest cyberattacks in history. This is the story of WannaCry. Friday, May 12th, began like any ordinary working day. Then computers started failing. A red window appeared on infected screens. It told victims that their files had been encrypted and demanded payment in Bitcoin. The message included 2 countdown timers. One warned that the ransom would increase. The other suggested that the files could eventually be lost forever. The malware was called WannaCry, and unlike ordinary ransomware, it did not need to attack every computer individually. Once WannaCry entered a vulnerable network, it searched for other vulnerable Windows computers and spread automatically. One infected machine could become 10. 10 could become hundreds, and hundreds could spread the infection far beyond a single building. The attack moved faster than many security teams could react. In England, parts of the National Health Service were severely disrupted. Medical staff lost access to computer systems. Appointments and operations were canceled. Some patients had to travel farther to receive emergency treatment. The attackers had not necessarily chosen each hospital as a target. WannaCry spread wherever it found a vulnerable machine. It did not understand what a hospital was. It did not know that lives could depend on the computers it was locking. It simply continued searching and spreading. The vulnerability used by WannaCry was not completely unknown. Microsoft had released a security update nearly 2 months earlier. Computers that had installed the update were protected against the weakness the attack was exploiting. But thousands of organizations still depended on older machines and outdated systems. Some had delayed installing the update. Others were running software that was difficult to replace. And many did not realize how exposed they were until their screens turned red. WannaCry revealed one of the most dangerous truths about cybersecurity. A vulnerability does not disappear simply because a solution exists. The solution must actually be installed. And on May 12th, thousands of computers were still waiting. By that afternoon, the outbreak had become an international emergency. Security researchers began collecting samples of the malware. They examined its behavior. They searched for weaknesses, and among them was a young British researcher known online as Malware Tech. His real name was Marcus Hutchins. Marcus began studying a copy of WannaCry. He was not part of a government intelligence agency. He was not commanding a large cybersecurity operation. He was analyzing the malware and trying to understand how it worked. Then he noticed something unusual. Before WannaCry continued executing, it attempted to contact a long and random-looking internet domain. The address appeared meaningless. It had no normal website. And most importantly, no one had registered it. Marcus did not immediately believe that he had discovered a kill switch. He thought the domain could help him monitor the outbreak. If he registered it, he could observe how many infected computers were attempting to make contact. So he purchased the domain. It seemed like a small decision, a routine step during a malware investigation. But almost immediately, requests began pouring in. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands of infected machines were attempting to contact the address. And then researchers noticed something extraordinary. New WannaCry infections were beginning to slow down. The strange domain was part of a test built into the malware. When WannaCry reached a computer, it attempted to contact that address. If the domain did not respond, the malware continued running and spreading. But if the address responded successfully, WannaCry stopped. The attackers may have included this behavior to detect security analysis environments. But the mechanism created a fatal weakness. Before Marcus registered the domain, it did not exist. Every infected computer received no response. So WannaCry continued. After the domain was registered, the computers finally received an answer. And the original outbreak began losing momentum. It was not an instant cure. Computers that had already been encrypted remained locked. The domain did not restore lost files. It did not remove WannaCry from infected machines. And it could not prevent attackers from creating modified versions without the same weakness. But it slowed the original attack during its most dangerous moment. That gave hospitals, companies, and governments something they desperately needed. Time. Time to disconnect vulnerable systems. Time to install security updates. And time to understand what they were fighting. Even after the kill switch was activated, the damage was already enormous. The attack affected hundreds of thousands of computers across the world. In England, the National Health Service estimated that more than 19,000 appointments may have been canceled. Factories stopped production. Businesses lost access to important files. Employees arrived at work and discovered that entire networks were unavailable. WannaCry demonstrated that a cyberattack could escape the digital world. It could affect hospital patients. It could stop transportation. It could interrupt production. And it could disrupt the daily lives of people who had never heard the word ransomware. Years later, American authorities linked the development of WannaCry to programmers working for the North Korean government. But the identity of the attackers was only one part of the story. The other part was the researcher who found the weakness they had left behind. Marcus Hutchins did not stop WannaCry by attacking the attackers. He did not discover a secret password. He noticed one unexplained detail and decided to investigate it. WannaCry began with a vulnerability repeated across thousands of computers. But its rapid spread was slowed by one domain, registered by one person, making one decision. Marcus Hutchins did not know what would happen when he clicked the button. He was trying to observe the attack. Instead, he activated its kill switch. And for a world watching its computer screens turn red, that small decision made an enormous difference. Because sometimes stopping a global disaster does not begin with knowing every answer. Sometimes it begins with noticing the one detail everyone else ignored. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Stikrito, because the next event that changes the world may already be hiding inside a line of code.